Bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Welcome, Fade to Black, Bespoke Radio for the masses. How you doing? Man, oh man, oh man, oh man. This is Bespoke Radio for the masses. Today's Thursday, August 3rd. And we are live from a bunker somewhere in downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black. For KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet, I am your host, Jimmy Church. Welcome, everybody. This is our 700th show. And tonight, it's a special Fader night. Yes, our 700th broadcast, and tonight we celebrate the life of Jim Marrs. He passed away 2 days ago. Guest on this show so many times. I don't know how many times Jim has been out with us. A dozen? A few times a year? Or more. So tonight we got a best of. We went back and selected some really cool moments over the years, so we're going to play those back for you. We're going to open up the phone lines. And then, of course, we're going to start off the show with John Rappoport tonight and his No More Fake Newsroom live. And then we're going to open up the phone lines. And what I would like to know from all of you, your favorite Jim Marrs moments, your Jim Marrs isms, your favorite book. Did you ever meet him? Did you ever get a chance to talk to him? Did you ever see him speak in public? Did you ever get a chance to hang out? All of that stuff. So we're gonna do all of that tonight. We're gonna celebrate the life of Jim Marrs, okay? And follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. That's what you want to do, at JChurchRadio. You can go now, follow, like, and subscribe. Go over to the website. It's very simple. Just click on those three little buttons right there. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. It's right there. The Sandbox is hashtag F2B on Twitter. We use TweetDeck here, so which is a Twitter program. Okay, so if you don't have TweetDeck and if you're listening to the show for the first time and you're wondering what it's all about, it's simple. Just go and download TweetDeck. Get it on your computer. Get it on your. You can get TweetDeck on your phone. And it runs automatically. Okay? It runs automatically. You don't have to click notifications. You don't have to update. You don't have to do anything. You get some columns going, and those columns advance automatically when somebody posts there. So for us, what I do is I have a column for myself, right, at JChurch Radio. I have a column for hashtag F2B, which is the Sandbox. I have a column hashtag F2BQ, Fade to Black Questions, and then I have a column for Rita, right? Okay, so that's what I have. And then as anything updates with any of those, it clicks automatically. It's beautiful. And you have a chance to respond, reply, retweet, get involved inside of conversations. Really, really, really cool program. So get TweetDeck. And then once you get TweetDeck, if it seems a little confusing, and it's really not, it's pretty simple. But if you have any questions how to set it up, just hashtag F2B, tweet out hashtag F2B, and go, hey, dudes, dudettes, I need some help here. Can you come and tell me what to do? And there you go. One fate or not after another will come to your rescue. Okay? So, TweetDeck is live in front of me. I have the chat rooms are over here to my right. And if you want to jump into one of the chat rooms, you can over at KGRA or on Spreaker and get involved there. Everything is up and live right in front of me. You can also email throughout the show. Email is in front of me. Jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. The phone numbers for tonight are 323-825-5045 or 323-275-9695. Tonight, we celebrate the life and times of the one and only Jim Marrs, who went out there and decided to figure out what was left to figure out. And he left this earth 2 nights ago. And he had been, I'll get into some other stuff, but he had, 73 years old and had some kidney issues and went on dialysis. And that was a pretty public thing. And that happened back in May, right before Contact in the Desert. And there you go. Life gets complicated when you get up there at that age. But I spoke to him all the way up into last week, and he was always in good spirits. There was a couple of times there where he was, look, we all freak out. And he was having issues with his eyes last month, maybe 3 weeks ago last month. And he's like, dude, man, my right eye, I can't see. It's black. I was like, hey, I just went through eye issues, man. I did too. I had to get prescriptions, and I was having issues, and got these eye drops and steroids and some other things, and things got fixed. So I said, just go to the eye doctor. He had an appointment the next day, and I said, just go watch. You're gonna see. You're just gonna get some eye drops. It's gonna be all better. And he's like, you think? I said, look, man, when you have eye issues, you start tripping out. You're wondering, and you go to the dark side when you start thinking like that, Jim. He's like, I know, right? I said, yeah. And he goes, man, because the kidneys, I'm getting old. And I said, oh, man, it's going to be all right. And but it was a sign, it was. I was just trying to keep him cheery, and he was too. That's the other thing. Look, if you've got problems, right? Whatever it is, stomach, feet, back, headaches, and somebody is telling you things, try this, you don't want to listen. You're like, man, no, and nobody can convince you that they're trying to cheer you up, but you don't want to hear it. And, and you're dealing with it, and you're tripping out, man. You're just like, wow, it's probably something crazier. Well, okay. That's I did my best, and really he was pretty cheerful all the way up to the end. So there you go. Tonight we will celebrate the life of Jim Marrs. He was a good friend, and he was somebody that every single time I had the urge, the need, to have Jim on the show, because it was all the time. I was like, man, if I could have had Jim on the show once a week, I could have, but what I mean is I would have done it because I just enjoyed our conversation so much, and he loved coming on this show. But every single time that I called Jim and I said, what's up? We would end up being on the phone for 2 or 3 hours, and I would say, you want to come on the show, next week? Yes. What day? Okay, good, perfect. He never said no. He every time we had a conference and he was there, he would be one of the first people in the front row. Any fate or not, I'll tell you, any live broadcast we've ever done, Jim Marrs marched in, sat down in the front row, and waited his turn and could not wait to get on the air. And that's the way that he was. He was funny. He was cool. Super, super smart. And I just can't wait for you to hear these clips that we have from tonight. And I went back and I listened to the very first broadcast. I've got some clips of that we did. And it's very interesting to hear the two of us together for the first time, kind of feeling each other out. And then when you get into the later broadcast, the comfort level between the two of us was so much fun to listen to. And I just can't believe he's not going to be on the show ever again. But, we've got a lot of replays. We've got tons and tons of stuff from over the years that are archived, and they're very fun to go back and listen to. Very, very smart man. And the other trippy thing for me, because I went through and listened to, years of audio today, to hear us go all the way through, and you got to remember, it kind of went down like this. When we went through the last administration with Obama and all the way through to Trump and the campaign, right? And you go through that, and you go through the election, and then you go through the end of it. Very, very interesting to listen to everything, how it kind of came together. So we have all of that. And if you really want to, especially after the show tonight, go back and listen to those archives with Jim and listen to them in order. They're really, really interesting to listen to. They really, really are. Okay, where am I? You can email throughout the show tonight, Jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Don't forget to subscribe to all of our podcasts. The podcast, which we are after tonight, we're at 700 shows archived right there. Custom apps, Apple, Android, all platforms, just $2 a month. Click on the podcast banner over at Jimmy Church Radio. Now, if you want to become a member, a full-on member, you want to become a Fadernaut, go to our membership section. Do both. It just helps support the show. And if you do both, you will always have the podcast apps there, right? That's really cool. Instant access to all of the archives. But you can become a member, too, and you can get commercial-free downloads. You get the Bunker Cam. Hello to everybody out there in Bunker Cam world. And you can go all the way through and get T-shirts and autographed hats and all of that stuff. Okay, so become an official Fadernaut in our membership area. All of our sponsors help support this show. Life Change Tea, GetTheTea.com, Rivermoon Coffee, New Pharma, Ancient Life Oil, and Studio Dome Speakers. Visit all of our sponsors, okay? All of the promo codes are there in each of the banners over on our website. Life Change Tea does have a new promo code. It is Fader, Fader. Use Fader and you will get 15% off, or you get free shipping. 15% off is Rivermoon Coffee, and that is F2B blend. Okay, let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday to today. James Hetfield is 54 years old. Is he a billionaire yet? Is he is Hetfield up to like... Is he up there? Is he up there? Does he have Bono money, right? Yeah, wondering about that. Paul McCartney money. Tony Bennett today is 91. Martin Sheen today is 77. Martin Sheen, Apocalypse Now, right? Michael Ealy today is 44. And Michael, as with the entire cast of the movie Barbershop, will always make the birthday list because of Barbershop. He played Ricky Nash in Barbershop. Yeah, there you go. All right, on this day in history, OTD, Flat Earthers Unite, right? Because in 1958, the United States nuclear submarine Nautilus, which was the first nuclear sub, accomplishes the first undersea voyage to the geographic North Pole. The Nautilus dived at Point Barrow, Alaska, and traveled nearly 1,000 miles under the Arctic ice cap to reach the top of the world. That's right, the top of the globe, the North Pole, not the center of the Earth, according to flat earthers. Think about that. All right, and that's according to flat earthers all around the globe. Fader fact, while 71% of Americans believe in hell, only 0.5% think they are likely to end up there. And that is a Fader fact. Tonight, very special Fader night. It's our 700th broadcast. And tonight we will celebrate the life of Jim Marrs. And John Rappoport's going to be here with his No More Fake Newsroom live in a few short minutes, followed by open lines. I would like to hear from everybody all night long. Which of Jim Marrs' books was your favorite? I want some Jim Marrs isms. Which was your favorite Fade to Black broadcast with Jim Marrs? Did you ever meet him? Did he influence you? That's what we're going to do tonight, and I've got some really cool highlights here. One of the highlights, and we're going to play it a little bit later, and it really, really kind of tripped me out. Jim Marrs went to school, went to journalism, went for journalism, went into the Army, was part of Special Intelligence, and was a writer, gets out, and now because of what he did in the military, he had exposure to secret clearances, what that really means, the compartmentalization of the military and the access to classified files. He had exposure to all of that, but then the military also does something else for you. It introduces you to the military-industrial complex, what a general is, what a colonel is, what a captain is, and an NCO, an officers club, the NCO club, the way that the hierarchy is done, and also the military teaches you the respect of the men and women to your left and to your right. All of that comes into play, and also ultimately taking orders. Okay, that's all part of the military and the secrecy of the military. And once you are inside that and you see how it is done, then you look at the world in a little bit differently. And it doesn't matter if you're in the military in some small country, and I'm talking small. You still the military is separate from the civilian structure, and even in a dictatorship or a monarchy, or whether it's a democratic or a republic, it doesn't matter. Okay, the military is something that once you are exposed to it for real and you're part of it, you have a different appreciation, a different outlook on life. He goes back to Dallas and he becomes a beat writer there in Dallas. And there, once you go into journalism, you find out a few things. One, all journalists, all of them, every single one, you start writing for the school newspaper in junior high and high school, and you think that that's what you want to do. Well, you want to change the world. You want to be a beat writer. And you want to go out and uncover things and conspiracies on the city beat, right? City Hall and the police department and taxes and the mayor and all of that. You want to change the world. And so you go to school, and that is your goal. You want to be that guy, that girl that breaks Watergate. You're undercover and you're just, right? And then you find out, like Jim did, that isn't the way it works. Okay? There are a few journalists out there that are doing their thing, but they do it independently. You're never really working for a newspaper or a network and have freedom. There are a few that do. There are hundreds of thousands that do not. You just don't. You don't have that freedom. And he found that out. When you go and you get hired at a newspaper, and John Rappoport has talked about this, Jim Marrs has talked about this. I've had many, many, many journalists on this show that have all expressed the exact same thing, which is this. You find out that you don't have freedom. You don't. And you are told, and it could be anything, and you want to break a story, they're going to go, okay, all right, well, let's put that to the side for right now because you're going to write this story, And it's like, wait a minute. What do you mean write? Well, this is what you're going to do. Here it is. Boom. And you are given an assignment. Everything is to an agenda. It doesn't matter whatever that paper's affiliation is, or magazine, or publisher, or network. They all have their own flavor and their own audience, who they write to and influence. And so as a journalist, you find out very quickly that there is no journalism. You are told what to do. And the news director at whatever it is told what to do. And he is told, and she is told, and it goes right up the chain. There isn't any freedom out there. There's a lot of protections that fall for a journalist in the press corps. There are the freedom of the press, right? You would think that means you could do whatever you want. You cannot, and you are told what to do. And if you decide that you want to be the guy or the girl out there that is going to do their own thing, then you are told, well, you can, but you're not going to do that here. You're fired. Go. And that is where the alternative media comes in. And that's what happened to Jim Marrs. And Jim, with his little path through life, finds out that the only freedom he was really going to have was if he became a writer. He could do the same investigations. He could do the same things, but he would have to do it in book form. He wouldn't be able to be that beat writer out there changing the world. And it happens to so many great minds and great journalists over and over again. But what he had behind him was the experience from the military and what that taught him about life, going through to a media outlet in Dallas like he did, and getting exposed to that corrupt way of censorship on how writing is done. And you would think that everything is honest and everything is cool when you're reading a newspaper, but when you're on the other side of it, you find out that everything is just like almost any other job. You are just told what to do, and you stay within the system. And if you decide to step out of the system, then you have to leave. That's just the way that it is. And that's what Jim did. And he found that freedom in writing. And what he, as things started to develop in his own mind, certainly with the book Crossfire and all of its updates, and with the Kennedy assassination and the corruption that went all the way from the Oval Office down to the agent level things of the FBI and the CIA and the military and police departments across this country into the New World Order, the Bilderbergs and the Illuminati and the cabal and the military-industrial complex. All of this panned out, and the fingers and the octopus and the complexities of things around the world went into all the way through to the UFO and the alien agenda. What a life. And he found out that everything was connected. And he connected those dots. Yesterday I had said, and I really mean this, his outlook and the way that he started to put things together was so important that when the book Crossfire came out and the revelations that were in that book about the Kennedy assassination and the way that he started to find out things, that story needed to be told. And in steps Oliver Stone, and the movie JFK got made. JFK shook the establishment. Okay? I don't know how many times you've seen JFK. I have certainly seen it dozens of times. And now here we have the name Garrison, right, is now, and others are being spoken around the world. Jim's influence went from, and yes, he was a New York Times bestseller. Yes, I get that. But he went from our little conspiracy world to the global stage. And JFK and that story would not have been told without Oliver Stone, but not without Jim Marrs. His influence was global. He changed lives. He did. He influenced everyone. And there are so few people out there that blaze that trail, that stay on it with conviction, and are able to change lives. He did all of that by the age of 73. His enthusiasm and the way that he approached life stayed that way up until he left this earth. His last book that he wrote, The Illuminati, which he told me about 2 years ago, which was inspired from a lot of things as not only Fade to Black, but just in general how things started to build up around him, and he needed to write that book. He had to get the Illuminati out. And he talked to me about that for over a year. I talked to him all the time, and I would see him, and Jimmy, this book is I'm telling you. And when that book was released, he was right here on Fade to Black. When that book was released, he was right on Coast to Coast with me. And he took it all the way to the Illuminati to the end. And that was his life. It was just incredible. So you need to think about that as we go through everything tonight. Here we have a young man that goes through the military-industrial complex, does some very, very secret stuff, gets those security clearance, lives that life, goes through a journalism career, and then becomes one of the most successful researchers and writers ever, and then, of course, one of the great Hollywood films. That was Jim Marrs. Tonight, we celebrate that life, and I'll be right back with the one and only John Rappoport. And how cool is it? Right, here we have John. No more fake newsroom. John Rappoport here every single week, and all of the visits that we've had from Jim Marrs. The two guys rock everybody's world, and they're right here on Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is Jimmy at JimmyChurchRadio.com on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'll be right back with John Rappoport. Stay right there.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi, folks. Let's wind the clocks back 60 years. Food was different. Food provided health and nutrition, and using supplements was minimal. Unfortunately, now we have chemicals, GMOs, herbicides, and pesticides that can be quite lethal in the name of our food supply and, of course, the ever-loving dollar. Supplementing our diets can be very important to stay healthy. Cleansing from daily intruders to the body might be critical. Live strong and take charge. Log on to getthetea.com. Our herbal tea is a great way to cleanse from intruders. Our supplements is a great way to maintain and improve your health. When your health is not up to par, go to getthetea.com. No GMOs, no fillers, and organic. And very helpful in keeping you at the top of your game. Life is too short to feel, you know what I mean. Stay in the game, at the top of your game with GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Again, GetTheT.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA. The Planet.
Win big with KGRA this summer. Tickets and hotel accommodations to the biggest conferences, autographed books and DVDs, chances to win all-inclusive conference cruises, and private dinners with your favorite KGRA hosts. Click the contest tab at kgraradio.com for your chance to win big this summer. Your contact for the best alternative talk radio on the planet. kgraradio.com.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
And now, coming to you from the No More Fake Newsroom in deep space, which is the space that we suspect to be true, that the world as it is fed to us every day by the Ministry of Truth is a lie, a false reality, a movie projected on the screen of our subconscious. This, however, is the breakout. All the screens crash, they all go down, and we see the light of day. No more robots, no more androids. It's the No More Fake Newsroom with John Rappoport. Take it away, John.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you. Good to be here. Yeah. Well, first of all, a note on the passing of Jim Marrs. Jim and I never met over the years. We never talked. Just seemed to be in different places at different times, I guess. The one thing that I want to point out, here is a guy who was making a living as a newsman. In a day, long ago, when that actually meant a great deal more than it means now. But something happened. Something happened. What happened was JFK in Dallas, 1963. There may have been other things that happened in the life and career of Jim Marrs, journalist, author, researcher. But it was a crucial moment that brought him to see, in his own way, that there were bigger issues and that these issues were not going to be covered in the mainstream in a way that he could actively and wholeheartedly participate in. And so his story, in his own way, is like many stories of independent reporters, investigators, researchers who have a pivotal experience when they come to that understanding. And as listeners of the show know, I regularly promote the idea of more people becoming independent reporters and investigators and so on, because among those, there will be stars in the firmament, individuals who take the bit between their teeth and strike out in new directions, convinced that their mission in life is to expose deeper levels of the truth in whatever area it may be. With Jim, it was many different areas. This is important. This is big. This is major, because it changes the world. It changes people's perception. They realize that they have been bamboozled for a very long time. And they wake up and they see what's behind the curtain, what's below the surface. And Jim was one of those men who not only devoted his career to exactly that, but from all indications and people who knew him that I've spoken with, enjoyed himself the whole time while he was doing it. He was made for that mission, and that mission was made for him. So our thanks go out to Jim and his family, and many more to come, many more independents to come. Speaking of which, there is a former mainstream reporter named Seymour Hersh. He's still in the mainstream as a Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative journalist, but he has taken very unpopular stands on key issues over the years that have made him no friend of the CNNs and New York Times of this world. And somebody, I believe it was WikiLeaks recently, in the last few days, released a 7-minute phone call of Cy Hersh talking to an unidentified person about the WikiLeaks publication of the Democratic National Committee emails last year that became such a furor in the press, such a major story, because they gave strong indications that the Democratic National Committee, the DNC, was trying to slant the result of the Democratic primaries for president away from Bernie Sanders in particular and toward their favorite Hillary Clinton. And that's just the short version of what was in those thousands of emails that were released, which have become part of the folklore, the ongoing folklore of the, oh, it was Trump and the Russians who did it. It was the Russians who interfered in the election. They got a hold of all those emails and they passed them to WikiLeaks, and WikiLeaks released them and so on. But there has been many other vectors to the story that contradict that, one of which is Seth Rich, murdered a year ago in Washington, D.C., who worked for the DNC. And people have said, and WikiLeaks has, let's say, obliquely implied without admitting it, that he was the source, an inside source, that these DNC emails were not hacked, they were leaked by him to WikiLeaks. So here we have Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative reporter Seymour Hersh talking for 7 minutes on the telephone, excoriating former CIA head John Brennan, saying that the whole Russia-Trump story was a Brennan operation, and that he, Hersh, has had a long secret source in the FBI, a very meticulous source who has copied documents for him, and that Hersh was recently told that there is an FBI secret report that indicates indeed that Seth Rich, before his murder in Washington, got a hold of WikiLeaks and Julian Assange and sent them samples of emails that he had taken into his possession from the Democratic National Committee that eventually led to some kind of an agreement, a Dropbox account, a password, and that's how all these emails really got to WikiLeaks. Had nothing to do with the Russians. We will see, but it's a kind of an explosive story, and you can find posted on YouTube all over the place online those 7 minutes of monologue from Pulitzer journalist Seymour Hersh. See what you think. See what you think. Okay, another story this week of note. I'm going to try to just cover this one very quickly because I could get into this, one of these blood-boiling stories. Big Pharma is now moving the production of asthma medications, factories that produce these medicines, to China. And recent press indicates that this is because of the horrible air in Beijing. So stop and think about that juxtaposition. You've got an environmental quality, or lack of same, giant amounts of horrendous air in Beijing and other parts of China. And so a drug company decides, well, we're going to produce more asthma medication in China. As if this medicine, no matter what it is somehow going to counteract the effects of daily breathing of horrendous air? Are they serious? I mean, talk about allopathic medicine trying to treat the symptoms without going to the cause. It's just mind-boggling. There is no way that any kind of pharmaceutical drug is going to somehow cure people or seriously alleviate their symptoms of breathing some of the most foul air on the planet every single day of their lives. That isn't a piece of magic that exists. I hope you get this, because time and time again, Big Pharma has done this. Some environmental disaster, catastrophe, or chronic condition in the environment is causing illness, and this is labeled a disease. And then drugs are developed, and the drugs are to treat the disease. But they don't do anything for the disease because it ain't a disease. Okay, it's not a disease. It's toxic infestation from the environment. And as long as it remains chronic, it's going to affect thousands and millions of people. I hope you get that distinction, because that is a key to what devious Big Pharma does all the time. Speaking of which, we have a very interesting story, and I wrote about it this past week. Celgene, a pharmaceutical company, has been involved in a lawsuit for the last 7 years or so about so-called off-label uses of two of their drugs, which were approved by the FDA for treating one type of cancer called multiple myeloma. And now the suit has come to an end. It's a civil suit, and I'll describe the outcome in a minute. But here's the deal. When the FDA approves a drug as safe and effective, medical drug, then doctors on their own can prescribe that drug for other conditions. That is legal. It can be done. However, the drug companies themselves are forbidden by law and regulation from actively promoting these other uses of a drug to doctors, called off-label uses. You can't do that. So the sales manager of Celgene filed a lawsuit because she said, hey, I was part of this whole deal. The whole thing was described to me by the upper-level bosses as to this campaign that we were going to wage, where we were going to send out reps to doctors, and we were going to promote the use of these drugs for other types of cancers for which they're not approved. And we did this, and I know. And not only that, but these drug reps misrepresented published studies and what the studies said in order to try to convince doctors that our two drugs were really safe and effective for other types of cancers. This is a big deal. I mean, we won't even get into the whole thing about chemotherapy and how toxic it is and whatever, but certainly to promote a drug en masse to doctors for uses for which it was not approved, and we're talking about a very serious condition called cancer, is horrendous, absolutely horrendous. So Celgene has been tap dancing and so forth for 7 years now, and finally the suit has been settled, and Celgene is going to pay out $280 million. Okay, but the drug last year made already several $billions, and one trade industry publication is predicting that in the year 2022, one of these cancer drugs is going to make $15 billion. So Celgene gets off the hook for doing something illegal, highly illegal, pays chump change, $280 million, and walks away with billions of dollars of profit and more coming. Utterly fantastic. Nobody goes to jail. Nobody is prosecuted on any criminal charges. The Department of Justice remains silent, stated that they were not going to get involved in the case. So look at this situation, because this gives us an overview of a general pattern in Big Pharma. This is not a drug company that is scrambling to protect itself after the fact of being caught with a hand in a cookie jar. There is plan, scheme, scam from the beginning. And, I'll give you, my version of a conversation. Look, boys, we got this drug. You see, we've got it approved now by the FDA, safe and effective for disease X. But we're going to promote this like hell to doctors. We know it's illegal and whatever for treating several other diseases, and that's going to really inflate our profits and so on and so forth. We really got to get behind this. And, of course, we will eventually get caught. And there will be a lawsuit. And there will be a fine, and nobody's going to go to jail because nobody from our industry ever goes to jail for anything like this. So we don't have to worry about it. And we've got the money, of course. We pay the little bit of fine, we walk away, say nothing, the drug stays on the market, and everything's good. That's the plan, up front. Up front, it's the plan, not later on. It's all factored in. It's all factored in. Think about that. Think about it. A lot of drug stories today. So Reuters is now saying, I've talked about the opioid epidemic on this show before. Drugs like oxycodone and Percocet and so forth. Gigantic numbers of people are using these drugs in America. Some are prescribed and some are sold on the street through pill mills, as they're called, illegal operations in which doctors are part of the criminal syndicate and write massive scripts, and these drugs are sold on the street. However, the Reuters story in the last few days here, more than 1/3 of U.S. adults were prescribed opioids in the year 2015. 1/3 of all U.S. adults. Now, these are painkillers, but they're very, very powerful painkillers. They are synthetic derivatives of morphine, stronger than morphine. Very highly addicting. There is a great difference between, say, prescribing morphine for a patient who's in extreme pain, for example, after major surgery, and what we're looking at here. Believe me, 1/3 of all adults in the United States are not suffering such debilitating and agonizing chronic pain that they need these opioid drugs, and yet they're being prescribed at an incredible rate. Think of what this does, not only to the individual and his brain and his ability to function, strung out. But now look at the overall effect on the country. When just from the effect of this one class of drugs, 1/3 of all adults can't think straight, can't function, are debilitated on a chronic level by the severe effects of these drugs. And you wonder why things seem weird. You wonder why there are people who look like robots walking around. I think I mentioned on the show some weeks ago that I got a report out of Ohio saying, when I wrote a piece about opioids, right on, I've seen it on the street here. People walking around like zombies. who are on these drugs. 1/3 of all U.S. adults. Boom. Wow. And I want to follow up on a couple of stories that I've been covering in the last 2 weeks. This is another sprout on the branch that has to do with robots, artificial intelligence, etc. The National Institute of Mental Health, which is a federal agency, and pharmaceutical company are working together, get this now, on tech that analyzes cell phone data to determine a person's mental state. This is in the pipeline. It's in research. The objective is to be able to, in the surveillance state, of course, to be able to access cell phone data on anybody, ultimately, and determine somehow from algorithms, what have you, this, that, and the other thing, their, quote, mental state. What this ultimately means is the ability, supposedly, to diagnose a person with a mental disorder from reading out of their cell phone data. No interview, no shrink, no doctor, no anything. The problem with psychiatry goes much deeper than what I'm describing, and I have talked about it at length on the program here and written about it for years, but we'll just stick to this aspect of it. What does this predictively look like? If this comes to pass, this program, you now have automatic marriage of the surveillance state and psychiatry to the point where a diagnosis of a particular mental disorder can be made remotely by spying on your cell phone data. You get that? And of course, this is not people listening on the other end to your phone calls. This is all done by AI, by artificial intelligence. You've got basically a software program that can read, analyze, collate, connect pieces of various kinds of information, dubious as they may be, pseudoscientific as they may be, and actually come up with clinical depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, this, that, and the other thing, whatever. And the implications even go beyond that. For example, suppose a certain individual who is under vague suspicion for one thing or another by federal authorities. Okay, so let's do a readout on his cell phone data. Okay, we've got the last 8 months here of his conversations, and lo and behold, we find that this individual is bipolar and mentally unbalanced and so on and so forth. Yes, very good. Okay, so now we want to carry this forward and discredit this individual because we see that he's holding political views that are opposed to the state. Yeah. So let's step up the surveillance on this particular guy. Let's have human intelligence. Let's have interviews with his friends and his people at work. Let's, do everything that we would do to home in on this person and accumulate more information with the purpose of, in one way or another, discrediting and neutralizing him or her because they are dissidents, because they hold dissenting views. And part and parcel of this, of course, would be the capacity to make a remote diagnosis of their mental state, which would then be used in order to say that they're crazy, and therefore nothing they say ought to be believed because they are imbalanced. Getting the picture? This is quite fantastic, and the research is going on. It's proceeding here. Of course, it's all being promoted under a rubric of share and care, and we care and concern for people's mental health and this and that and whatever. But this is the real program that lies beneath that, which takes the entire field of so-called mental health to another level of non-freedom and non-voluntary participation in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that, folks, is my report for the evening. Jimmy, if you want to chime in here on this AI robot thing, I know you're interested in that. It's quite something.
It's just scary. And the thing is we've always been warned about this through fantasy writing and sci-fi and movies, right? And it's like, it'll never come to that, right? It'll never come to that. But what if you had some kind of quirk, right? Something, maybe some kind of thing wrong with your speech. You're totally, you have everything, you have all your faculties, but just something that would just trigger something. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And then you've got to go through some kind of how do I say that? An appeals process, right? Right? And in the meantime, you're going through the appeals process from a mental ward, right?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's
not
just
a great place to appeal from.
Yeah. And so it's like you would be guilty, and then you have to prove yourself innocent. But we believe in the AI, and we're going to listen to the AI first, and have your lawyer fill out this paperwork and get back to us. Right? Right? That's the Pandora's box part of this that really scares the crap out of me.
And how about this? He's a loner.
Right.
We can tell from his conversations, he doesn't get out of the house. He just talks to people on the phone. He keeps to himself. He does a lot of research on the internet. Let's see what he's doing here. Let's see what sites he's visiting. This is somebody that seems to be, out of the mainstream, abnormal, unbalanced. Could be, who knows what he might do. He might, there might be a violent act in his future, et cetera, et cetera. We better home in on him.
And search his computers and,
sure.
and his cell phone and his house and his closet and look into his past, right? All because of a trigger off of AI, right? Wow, that is bizarre to me. It's right around the corner, too. John, thank you so much, and thank you for those words about Jim Mars. And I look at both of you the same way. You guys are both mavericks, and you will always do what you're going to do. And thank you for all that you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jimmy.
You're the best. Thank you so much. Now, everybody, I say it at the end of every Thursday when John Rappoport is here. Start off your day every day at No More Fake Newsroom, right? NoMoreFakeNews.com. This is Fade to Black. It's our 700th show tonight. A tribute to Jim Mars. He passed away 2 days ago. We'll be opening up the phone lines right now, 323-825-5045, 323-275-9695. We'll be right back.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. Yes. We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And I'm Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. And you're listening to Jimmy Church. The Revolution.
Ancient Life Oil. Life-changing, the real oil. CBD is truly ancient life oil from the source. This oil has no psychoactive effect and is also legal in all 50 states. When you're healthy, you're happy. The truth about this wonderful plant is that it wants to give back to mankind life, longevity, and happiness. Ancient Life Oil are golden grade, all organic, non-GMO, and infused with high-quality liquid coconut oil. It's simple. Just go to ancientlifeoil.com today. That's ancientlifeoil.com. The best, purest, organic, and non-GMO CBD in the world. Go Beckley Tappy. The statements made regarding these products have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Please consult your healthcare professional about potential interactions or other possible complications before using any product.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hard shell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129 and use the promo code JCRTWS and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tappy.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black, our 700th show. Opening up the phone lines right now. 323-825-5045. 323-275-9695. Our 700th broadcast. And I had said, we won't say anything until we get to 1,000. But no. And why? Because Jim Mars, our friend, passed away 2 days ago, and the opportunity was here. Today was our 700th show, and we wanted to take tonight to celebrate the life and times of Jim Mars. So it's our 700th broadcast, and it's our special for Jim Mars. Okay, so that's why we're talking about that tonight, our 700th broadcast. Again, 323-825-5045, 323-275-9695. I want to hear from everybody tonight. I want to know if you've met Jim Mars. I want to know which your favorite books, your favorite quotes, your favorite, why did you think he was important? What effect did he have on your life? Your favorite Fade to Black show with Jim, all of that. I mean, let's take the time to do that. It's our chance to show him how much he meant to all of us. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and the memories that I have, and there are many, and I'm looking here. Somebody's posting up something here. Let me see what this image is. Oh, this was okay. Eric just posted this. That's Contact in the Desert. What's really cool about that shot is the ray of light coming in. I've seen this image before. That was very, very, very cool. So that particular night, that was the night that I did what do you call it? Speakerphone. I called Jim on his speakerphone and had him speak and say hello to everybody at Contact in the Desert. That was pretty cool. And it actually was loud over the PA system. So there you go. And as these thoughts are coming through my mind, I'll never forget when he was on the first time he was on with us. And we had talked and we had, done some things right before that. But I knew, listening to Jim over the years and on different programs and television and stuff, listening to him over the years, I knew that the two of us, our personalities, I felt like I was in a lot of ways the younger version of him. And I knew that, and what I mean by I have that rogue thought pattern, right? That's the way that I think. And I had always envisioned if I could ever have the opportunity to sit down and talk with him, not interview him, but just have a conversation with him, that it would be just super dynamic and really cool and a lot of fun. And I knew that. And it just turned out to be that way. When, let's go back. I can't remember which came first, if it was Jim Mars on the show or if it was Contact in the Desert. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at the timeline. I didn't even think about that. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure what came first. But anyway, the first time that he was on with us, the conversation went so cool, so far, so fast. Up until that first show that he was on, officially on Fade to Black, we had never covered Kennedy. Okay? And the reasons for that are many. But certainly the reason why we never covered it was because I never had the right guest on, and I didn't want the subject to come up without having the right context, the right ideas, the right things put forward. I didn't want to go way left or just crazy thoughts. And because I have my own views on the Kennedy assassination, and I was never able really to talk about it. And so the first time that it was ever discussed on this show was with Jim Mars. And I went back today and I was listening to it, and I had actually said, I don't know if it's in this clip I'm about to play, but I actually said to Jim, I've never talked about Kennedy on Fade to Black, right? And it was very interesting to hear it pan out. But the subject of Kennedy, when it came up, it went very quick in one direction. Okay, so this is Jim Mars on the very first time he was on Fade to Black. And this is when he talks about the shots coming from the front or the back. Right? Okay, here we go. Check this out.
He said the tissue inside the skull was being moved around. It caused a massive amount of nerve stimulation.
Yeah. Blah, blah, blah.
Okay, so, okay. Well,
it's called the jet effect. Okay?
Right.
And they came up with that, trying to argue that, well, when the bullet goes in, then the compressed brain matter and fluids and stuff shoot out, and so it forces the head backwards, even though he got shot from the rear. And I'm here to tell you that's a bunch of
okay.
Full pookie, That's just somebody theorizing and trying to explain something that they don't want to go to the plain old physics, which is for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Right.
I have never shot. I'm from Texas. I've shot guns my whole life. I've shot everything from beer cans to deer to javelina, and I've never seen one that you shoot jump towards you. It just doesn't happen. Okay, you've got the momentum of the bullet, and it pushes you on. This is just some more scientific babble, to try to explain things. And this is the thing that really gets me about the Kennedy assassination. They made people disbelieve their own eyes, okay? One of the key witnesses, Sam Holland, said he heard a shot from behind the picket fence on the grassy knoll, saw smoke drifting out from under the grassy knoll, and they said, where'd you think the shot came from? He said, well, I thought it came from behind the fence on the grassy knoll. And they said, is that where you think now? He said, well, no, now I guess it came from the depository. Well, why do you say that? He said, well, because the government investigated. That's where they said the shot came from. They make people disbelieve their own eyes, and now they're making the public disbelieve, just common sense. And let me tell you, this is the oldest trick in the book. I start off my book with a quote from Adolf Hitler that he wrote in Mein Kampf, which was written back in the 1920s. And what he said was, the great masses of the people will more easily fall victims to a great lie than a small one. And then he went on to explain in his book, Mein Kampf, that everyone basically wants to be honest. Most people. Now, you got a handful of criminals and, psychopaths and stuff, but most people want to be honest. And so, therefore, in our day-to-day lives, we really try not to tell too many lies. We all do. But, if your wife come home and says, look at this new hat I just bought, what do you think? You better say it looks nice, right? You don't tell her what you really think. But anyway, so we're all used to little lies. But most people would never think about trying to tell a gigantic lie to a bunch of people. And therefore, when somebody has the chutzpah to stand up and tell you a great big lie, most people go, well, it must be the truth, because they would never lie that big about anything. And that's what they're counting on. That's what we got in the Kennedy assassination. That's what we got on 9/11. That's what we've gotten about UFOs. That's what we've gotten about so many topics. The big lie.
With I saw two things interesting over the last when the anniversary hit and the documentary started to come out. There was two that contradicted themselves, but I found interesting. And one of them was a documentary about him being shot from behind by one of the Secret Service agents that had pulled out a gun and armed it, a rifle, an AR-15, I think, and shot him accidentally from the back of the limousine.
Now, before you go on with that one, let's stop right there. Okay, you yourself just got through saying, and you're absolutely correct, that there were people standing there within 6 feet, 8 feet,
right.
8 feet away.
Right.
Okay? Did even one of them say, oh, by the way, the Secret Service agent back there shot him?
Right.
No, because it didn't happen.
Right. And then, exactly, and it was a compelling documentary, but then right after that, I'm watching another documentary about the limo driver turning around and shooting him. And so you have these two completely opposite sides of the fence claims, number one, with their own evidence that's presented. But my question is, in the Zapruder film, as I think all the frames are accessible and we've all seen it, the limo driver didn't turn around and shoot him in the head, did he? Or has the... Of course
not. No, both of those. Again, those are just diversions. Those are red herrings. In my latest updated version of Crossfire, the plot that killed Kennedy, if you'll look in the picture section, that would be on page 303, you will find a blow-up of Zapruder frame 314. This is supposedly the driver shooting Kennedy, and what you'll see is that what some people have seen in bad copies of the Zapruder film as a gun that he's turning around, firing with his left hand over his right shoulder, is actually just the sunlight reflecting off the hair grease of Roy Kellerman, who's sitting next to him. It's his top of his head, and you can see that. I published that in the new version of Crossfire. No, a Secret Service agent behind him did not shoot him, and no, the driver did not shoot him. Although I will add that there were some actions taken and not taken by the Secret Service that I think demand further investigation, although it may be too late now. For example, the driver, Greer, his hands never really left the steering wheel. In fact, in a photograph I just referred to, you can see that he's not firing a gun. He has his hands on the steering wheel. But according to his testimony to the official government committee, he said he didn't even know the assassination happened. He never looked around, didn't see Kennedy, and that it was only after Roy Kellerman next to him said, we've been hit, getting us out of here, that they stepped on the gas and that they roared off out of Dealey Plaza. This is not what the photographic record shows. Photographic record, thanks to the Nix film, shows that right after the first shot, contrary to Secret Service procedures, which is get the president out of danger, he hit the brakes. The brakes come on, the car came to almost a complete stop. And at that time, he turns and looks over his right shoulder directly at Kennedy. And only after the fatal headshot is delivered does he face front, the brake lights come off, and the car accelerates out of there.
That was the first set of questions when Jim Mars was on the first time he was on Fade to Black. Out of the gate, the man's passion was right there. Now, you listen to that clip. Anybody out there, any skeptic, anybody that wants to debunk or present their own evidence, you can't argue with that voice right there, which goes back to everything that I've ever said about Jim Mars. He was the complete package. He had the look, he had the beard, he had the glasses, he had the fedora, he had the knowledge, he had the conversation, he had the vocabulary, he had the ability to command a room, to take control. That's what he had, he had all of the data and the research to back everything up. And he would absolutely force you into listening to him. And now you could get into a debate, and he would enjoy that. He would love to go back and forth, absolutely. But that voice right there and that statement that he just made was just a 1-2 punch, and that was the very first time he was on with us, and I was like, this is the perfect guest. Right? And we've had so many that are great. Yes. Dolan and Linda Moulton Howe and Whitley Strieber, Mike Barra, the list could go on and on, Graham Hancock and Robert Schock and Laird Scranton. I mean, the list is long, the amount of great guests that come on here and know how to deliver. But nobody did it like Jim Mars. When I talked about this yesterday, and I really mean this, the first time that I watched him speak, not the first time, but it was far from the first time, but there's one moment where I watched, there's 500 people sitting in front of him, and there was noise in the room, and other people were speaking, and you could hear it. But when Jim started to speak, everybody sat up, focused, looked at him, and there was nobody speaking. It was like a church. That's exactly what it was like. And they listened to him speak for 10 minutes. Nobody, and I mean nobody, said a thing. Nobody interrupted him. And I was like, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. You speak with conviction. And that was Jim Mars. Looking at these pictures here, I've got to go through these one-on-one. Yeah. There you go. Where was I? Was there for this too, or was I hosting this? I don't know. Thanks for posting that, Brad. That was I hosting that? I don't know. I don't even know what I'm looking at. But that's pretty good. That's Tellinger, Jim Mars, Linda Moulton Howe, and John Anthony West. I just don't know where that was taken. Okay, now. There was this show continued, and there's another moment here that I grabbed because I went and asked Jim. We started to get into Kennedy's speeches and why there was probably a long list of people that wanted Kennedy out of the way. There were, and we have, not only do we have the Russians, of course, we have the Cubans, we have the mafia, we have the UFO community, the defense, and the military, because Kennedy was outspoken on so many different fronts. I mean, across the board, that anybody could have had a reason, right? Anybody could have had a reason. And so then Kennedy went and did his famous speech about the New World Order and secret societies, one of the greatest speeches in the history of this country, if not the world. And that speech was strong. And for somebody that young, charismatic, of course, but that is sitting in the Oval Office to come out and speak about this, which was everybody's fears in a lot of ways when it comes to the Illuminati or secret organizations or Skull and Bones and or the Freemasons, and the fact that these secret societies exist and that they deal with things in the background, the Fed. And they run big banks, and they're running the world, and these secret societies, secret handshakes, and secret deals are done under the table and in dark rooms. It's a Pandora's box that we always fear, right? And we hear about it. Okay? Well, Kennedy came out and actually had a speech about that, and that speech is one of the best. Could that have been a reason? I don't know. But that was the question that I nailed when at Jim Mars, which was, who killed Kennedy? And this was Mars's response. Okay, here we go. Oh, man. Oh, come on. I have to, I'm going to do this backwards. Okay, here we go. Who killed
Angle
Kennedy?
2 as well.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I say. See, they've kept the researchers off balance for years, arguing with each other over, well, did the mafia do it? Did the CIA do it? Was it the military? Was it the Russians? Well, was it the KGB? And the thing is, the answer is basically, forget the foreign thing. If this had been a Russian plot or a Chinese plot or a Japanese plot or whatever, then, the apparatus of the federal government of the United States would have swung into action, and we'd know about that. Even if it was just rumor, okay, we would know that. No, It comes down to, was it the CIA? Was it the anti-Castro Cubans? Was it the mafia? Was it the military? Was it the FBI? And the answer is yes.
Exactly.
All of the above. And I can tell you where that was centered. That was centered in the secret war against Castro, okay, under Operation Mongoose, which was being run off of the University of Miami campus at the Jimwave station. This was a CIA operation, but it also involved the FBI, and it involved the anti-Castro Cubans, and it involved the mafia. And there they all are. And they were working up to all kinds of skullduggery against Cuba, including assassination plots against Fidel Castro. And basically what happened was they finally, Kennedy was trying to put a stop to that. The honest FBI guys were raiding their training camps, and they were trying to shut them down. And so the Mongoose people decided that their real enemy was in the White House, not in Havana. So they just simply sent some of those hit teams to Dallas and then covered it all up.
Now, this is the thing. When you listen to Jim's response to that, when he says, well, all of the above, everyone, I have often thought, and I've entertained this idea with him too, is that just maybe there was a few people, a few organizations, a few groups that were all in Dallas at the same time to do the same thing, and they weren't aware of the next guy. It was that kind of world back then. He had Kennedy, being the game changer that he was, had ticked off a lot of different people. You have look at the Marilyn Monroe side of things, the UFO agenda that he wanted to come forward and talk about. There was also that, the CIA. You had everything that was going on with Bush, right? And if you back up before that, you have Nixon is in play too as well. That went all the way through. I mean, it's nuts, right? And when you listen to Jim paint the picture like that, really, it could have been a few different people. And the odds of somebody, more than one being there, that were there to take out Kennedy for their own reasons, taking shots at the same time, if you think about that, it's a possibility. It's really, really a strange thought. Now, the reason why I played that clip and I picked that is when the Warren Commission and all of the investigations that went into this, and the single shooter, and it was Oswald, and you listen to Jim and the way that he has put forth his evidence, and certainly in the book Crossfire, it forced people to take a step back and say, hey, wait a minute, it's not what we have been told. And that is the influence that Jim had on everybody when the importance of that film, JFK, with Oliver Stone, it needs to be driven home here. That is all because of the way that Jim Mars put forth all of this and investigated this and got it done. That was the importance of Jim Mars. It can never be dismissed. It can never be downplayed. And we need to remember him for that. I said, and I meant this. I said the other day, it was yesterday on Facebook, when I said, you know what? Rest in peace, Jim Mars. You've earned it. You've earned it, dude. Go rest. Take a break, because you changed the world. And I really think that as time goes by. I mean, we think that now. The importance of Mr. Mars is in the here and now, right? But I think as time goes by, the importance and everything that he did is going to get more solid and cemented and become part of the ground that we walk on. And I really mean that. So more coming up, and we'll get to your phone calls next. This is Fade to Black. It's our 700th show, everybody. 700th show. And tonight, we celebrate the life and times of Jim Mars. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'll be right back with your phone call. Stay with me.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hello, Fadernauts. This is Jimmy Church, and I'm introducing New Pharma, a company whose products are based on science. Human function based on the endocannabinoid system, or ECS. New Pharma firmly believes in this science, and their research indicates that support of the ECS provides the beneficial effects for a healthy lifestyle. New Pharma's science includes relief capsules for pain relief, sleep capsules, which are natural support for occasional sleeplessness. Foundation is support for your ECS, and Fit capsules support your active lifestyle. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B for a 33% discount on all of their products. Or visit newpharma.com for all of the knowledge on the science. That's GNUpharma.com. Go back, Lee Tappy.
Hi, I'm Matt Ray for U.S. Gold Bureau. I cover the market daily. No matter how strong it gets or what long-term predictions say, you can count on one thing as certain. There will be another crash. It will affect your assets. And when it happens, wouldn't you rather be 2 weeks or even 2 months ahead of the curve? Well, Wall Street insiders have been quietly converting their assets into gold for the last few years. Now it's your turn. Buying gold and silver is easier than buying stocks with the U.S. Gold Bureau's Investor Guide. It's free, and you learn how to buy precious metals in or out of an IRA or 401k retirement plan. Your investment shipped directly to your home and is 100% insured and guaranteed. You control your investments and shelter them against the stock market, politics, and unknown threats. Act while your dollar is still worth something. Call U.S. Gold Bureau, 800-885-GOLD. U.S. Gold Bureau, 800-885-GOLD, 800-885-GOLD. Call today.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black, our 700th show. Phone lines are open, 323-825-5045 or 323-275-9695. We're celebrating the life and times of Jim Marrs. And I do want to hear from all of you, okay? Have you met Jim Marrs? What's your favorite book? Give me a Jimmy-ism, a Jimmy Marrs-ism, right? Fade to Mars tonight on the show. Did you ever meet him? Did you ever see him speak in public? He influenced us and this audience and this show and the rest of the world so much that taking the time tonight to do this means an awful lot to me. So there you go. Okay, 323-825-5045, 323-275-9695. The numbers are up in Twitter, and both phone banks are open. Now, it wasn't just about the Kennedy assassination. I mean, that was a big part of what opened up his world, and we all know that. But his take into lost history, ancient history, Egypt, the UFO, ancient aliens, all of that started to become a big part of his life because he, as all of us, once you start going down the conspiracy path, and you're looking into the influences of the CIA, the FBI, the military, the Air Force, OSI, everything starts to come into focus, and everything starts to play itself out and are connected. And he started to figure that out. But his opinions on and his research into ancient history and lost history was second to none. He was so researched and educated in these subjects, I found out that there wasn't a zone I couldn't go into with Jim where he had not only an opinion about it, but an educated view of history, right? Well, one of those subjects was ancient Egypt. And so this goes back, this is one of our earlier shows. And the subject of ancient Egypt started to come up from a few different statements that were made earlier in the show, okay? So check this out. This is Jim Marrs on Egypt. Okay, what are we looking at here in this photograph?
Well, you can see, everybody can see it just as well as I can. It just looks like there's three pyramids with some other structures that obviously at some point there was some kind of community there, people living there. That's about all I can tell you at this point.
It looks like a city. It looks like a city to me. It looks like roads and corridors and buildings. And
I remember when there was some mainstream media coverage of this just a little bit. They said they'd found these columns and pyramids and things, and that they were speculating that it might be sunken Atlantis and that they were going to send more expeditions, blah, blah. And you never heard any more about it. it just kind of went dark. Now, the picture to the right of that, where you can see the monolithic columns standing there with the cross pieces, that is the Osirian. And this one really fascinates me, too, because if you look at the very top of the photograph, just you can barely see it, but there's a structure up there, the light stone structure. That is the temple at Abydos, and one of the palaces of one of the Egyptian pharaohs. So this is something that predated that because it's under it.
Right.
Down there under it, and we had to bribe people to go back there. They don't want you going back there. In fact, usually it's underwater. The two dark streaks that you see there are actually filled with water. And usually this whole thing is underwater. We just happened to get there at a very unusually dry season, and the thing was open, and they had that little stairway. You could walk down in there, and we bribed some guards and walked down there and walked all around. And then finally, when the head guard, or who it was, who we had not bribed, came along with his AK-47 and made us get out of there. But look at that, and it looks like a well-made Stonehenge.
It does.
And again, here is this huge edifice there, built by who knows who or who knows how. How do you get giant stones like that in place? And you can see how perfectly cut they are, and yet we don't even know who did that. It was not the Egyptians. It was there before the Egyptians, and there's no hieroglyphics on it. It's amazing. And then over to the extreme left, as you're looking at it, you see this story. You can click on the Easter Island picture. And this one really got me because I was, like everybody else, I was well aware of the giant heads there on Easter Island, which is out in the Pacific. And it's always been an amazing thing of how these islanders, with little or no technology, were able to carve out these giant statues and place them up there on the Easter Island, or Rapa Nui, as it's actually called. And so I wanted to put this picture up here to show that those heads, that's just the heads. There's bodies under there, huge bodies. And here they've dug down, and you can see the body under the giant head. Now, here's the clincher. You would think people to go, oh, my God, look at this. How did they get these? We couldn't even figure out how they got those heads there, and now we found out there's giant bodies under there. How'd they do that? And you'd think that there'd be a big hoorah about this. But the truth is, they covered them up. They filled it in. They covered them up again so that you can only see the heads, and even that's a big mystery. It's just, there's so much things going on in the world that people just don't know about. We live on a very incredible planet.
That's another example right there. It wasn't just about Kennedy. It wasn't. And it wasn't just about UFOs and the alien agenda. It wasn't. Jim's mind went everywhere. Now, I talk about this all the time. Conspiracy. It's not what the dictionary is going to tell you. Okay, it's not. Conspiracy is to commit a crime. Conspiracy is two or more people conspiring together to commit a crime. But that isn't what it means in pop culture. Conspiracy is a whole nother definition. Okay, it's not something legal that you're going to get arrested for. Conspiracy is this pop culture definition of everything. Everything today. Conspiracy is the new normal. And Jim Mars helped champion this. So conspiracy, under that conspiracy umbrella, is everything, which goes back to ancient history and our education system and what we are taught and the way that our children are brought up today and what they are taught. It's all part of the big lie, the big conspiracy. Underneath that umbrella is everything. It's UFOs. It's ancient Egypt. It's ancient aliens. It's Kennedy. It's the military-industrial complex. It's the cabal, the Illuminati, the feds. It's all the Bilderbergs, the Freemasons, all working together, right, through our educational system and the way that big pharma is running and insurance companies and the treadmill and how we live our life every day and how we are forced into that status quo way of life with our blinders on through mass media. It's That's exactly what Jim Marrs did. And so, I understand that so many people want to think of John F. Kennedy and equate that with Jim Marrs, and you should. But when you listen to that statement right there that he is making about ancient history, going through all the way from Baalbek and Lebanon and Easter Island and ancient Egypt, and to know about Abydos and Osiris and everything that was involved there and how it's structured and layered, it's crazy, and that's what he did. I mean, it was just so much fun to have him on the show. So so with that, I want to jump into. I'm going to go with this. I'm trying to kind of keep the thoughts in order here, but one of the things that Jim talked about a lot and did a lot of research into was not only the Third Reich and World War II and Nazi and technology, but it was all encompassing with him. So yes, we had the rocket technology and flying saucer technology and possibly an alien connection where all of that came from. Which when you branch off in the Third Reich and what that actually implied. Yes, we have ESP and channeling and the Vril and the Thule Society and that, but and the ET technology that could have been used to build flying saucers, but all of that goes way out in every direction, right? Most will concentrate on Hitler and the Third Reich and maybe him being a megalomaniac and an artist and failed and his childhood. But what actually was the reality of the Third Reich and the way that they looked at ancient history and ancient societies and technology and the supernatural and the paranormal and how that blended into the very fabric and culture of what the Third Reich was. And now, could that possibly go into, right, Operation Highjump in Antarctica and alien technology and being able to go around the world in a few seconds and maybe even to outer space and moon bases and Mars and all of this, right, Jim Marrs investigated and looked into. And that was part of when he came on this show. The conversation could go in any direction. So I asked him about the Vril, and here is this conversation.
How do you, and what evidence is there about that massive leap in technology that they had over there over the rest of the world? I mean, we were years behind what was going on in Berlin and around Germany at that time. Do you think that came, do you think it came from the stars? Do you think it came directly from Vril and Thule?
Well, yeah, I do, and here's why I think so and how I think so. I'd heard stories for years that the Nazis had captured a flying saucer, okay? And one story said it was in Poland, another said it was in North Africa, another one said somewhere else.
One would and yet, possibly
every time I dig, I never could confirm any of those stories.
Right.
I am now of the belief, I think it was this. I think it was remote viewing. All right? You know about remote viewing, right,
Of
Jimmy?
course.
All right. Because everybody kind of knows about it now, but when I started, was introduced to that and wrote my book about it that was censored, was blocked from publication, because at that time in the mid-'90s, it was still a very top-secret classified program of the U.S. Army. So it's akin to remote viewing. In the 20s, 1910, World War I time in the 20s, both in Germany and in the United States and Britain, occultism was a big fad. And people would hold seances, and they want to talk to the spirit world, and you had the thing about the fairies, and it was just a huge interest in all of this. Well, the Germans were in on it too, and they were having these big seances, particularly among the Thule Society and the Vril Society. And I think that they managed to basically do some remote viewing, and it put them in touch with some non-human intelligences. And I think these intelligences got to looking at the Nazis early on, and they had neat uniforms, and they all marched in goose step together, and they looked sharp, and they were talking about, you know, making the world a safe and dynamic place for everybody, and being efficient, and they looked pretty good. So I think they started sharing with them some of their technology, and that's why towards the end of the war, they were so far ahead of us with flying saucers, with rockets, with 3-stage rockets, with guns that could shoot around corners, with electromagnetic things such as the Nazi Glocke or the bell, and they were messing with energy manipulation. And in fact, in my book, The Rise of the Fourth Reich, you'll find fairly convincing evidence that they actually developed an atomic bomb long before we did. The problem was they didn't have a reliable delivery system. So they ended up swapping their atomic technology to us, the United States, so we could end the war with Japan in exchange for immunity, and that's why so many of them got away, because we let them get away.
Do you think there's a connection with Vril and Hanubu, flying saucers, and Roswell?
There's a lot of argument about that, and I do think that at that point they may have actually gotten hold of one or parts of one, and they were probably in great secrecy looking at that. But from everything I know about Roswell, I don't think it was a German machine. I think it was truly something that was non-human.
There you go. Now, this was the setup. Now, with Jim on this show, and I was always a little, I don't want to use the word reticent, but for me personally, I was always a little bit uncomfortable talking about Hitler, the Third Reich, Nazi Germany, for a lot of different reasons. I don't like what it represents. I'm uncomfortable with it. I don't like looking at swastikas. I don't like seeing, I don't. It's uncomfortable for me today in the modern world. Growing up as a kid, when you're watching war movies, and you would see how the Third Reich was represented, they always had the cool guns, the cool tanks, the cool planes, the cool technology. They were always represented that way, all the way through to something like Star Wars, where you had the stormtroopers there, and the way that all of that was portrayed, and Darth Vader and had that Nazi feel to it. Again, in Star Wars, they had the Death Star, they had all the cool things, they had all the cool ship, they had all the cool stuff, right? So you're kind of torn between the two, and it's a guy thing. But I was always uncomfortable with that. I didn't want to go there. And I don't want to prop it up, but the facts are the facts. And so when you approach this subject, I would hand it off to somebody else. I would hand it off to a guest. And you hand that off to somebody like Jim Mars that knows how to speak about it, knows how to represent it. And I'm able to just sit back and listen, because his take, a lot like Peter Levenda too as well, his take on the influence of Nazi Germany and the Third Reich on the rest of the world, going through to today, it's still there. It's painful to talk about. It's uncomfortable, and the visuals and everything are hard today on society, because we now have the ability to go back and look at history and see how bad it really was and what the influence was. And that's the truth. And Jim Mars wrote about it. Now, if you are going to write a book called The Rise of the Fourth Reich, you better know what you're talking about. And you better do your research, because people are going to come back at you with those views. And that's exactly how we dealt with it. So now this next clip. Let's go with... I start to bring up Hitler and Hitler's survival, right? And again, a very difficult thing to talk about, right? But this is how we dealt with it here.
What do you think? Did Hitler survive the war? I mean, he puts together a pretty good case.
I'm pretty convinced he did. I think for just a wide variety of reasons and a wide variety of evidence. But I guess the key thing is that, you know, over time, this whole public or this whole historic story has been solidified in that he and Ava Brown committed suicide in the bunker, you know, and it's been drilled into us and it's put in the history books, and pretty soon everybody just accepts that. But if you really go back to the time that was happening in the spring of 1945, nobody was certain as to what actually had happened. And in fact, Stalin always said that Hitler got away. We now have all these FBI documents showing that they were still wondering what happened to him and tracking him and hearing reports that he was in South America, you know, all the way up into the early 50s. But the FBI, all these reports got squirreled away. You know, they're only just now coming to light. And then you also have to figure out in the broadest scheme of things. If you'll read my book, The Rise of the Fourth Reich, you'll find that Hitler didn't just suddenly appear, and he wasn't just some crazy man that somehow seized control of one of the most cultured and advanced nations in history. He was a creation of the Western bankers, and he was created for the sole purpose. He started off as a ne'er-do-well artist and a would-be architect, but they never would allow him in art schools because they said he wasn't that good. And he ended up being a soldier in World War I, and apparently a pretty good soldier. He ran messages and threw enemy fire, and he got the Iron Cross, and apparently was quite a good soldier. Then he got gassed and had a slow, painful recovery from that. And then he was knocking around trying to be an artist, living hand to mouth. So he took an extra job for this Captain Meyer, who was with Army Intelligence, and he was acting as a kind of an undercover agent. And they sent him to spy on a little fledgling political party called the German Workers' Party. And when first time he ever showed up, there's only about 9 people there. This is a good lesson on how that, you know, everybody says, well, I'm just one person. What can I do? Well, look at this. Here's 9 people.
Right.
And but he went back to his captain and said, you're going to like these folks. They think we were stabbed in the back in World War I, and we need to rearm, and we need to build a new, stronger Germany. And they're going, yeah, we're all for that. And then he got tied in with the Thule-Gesellschaft, or the Thule Society, which was an occult society made up of some of the German aristocrats and industrialists. And the Army guys told him, yeah, you're going to like this little party. They believe the same things we do. So they started funding Hitler and told him to go back and start running the party. And, of course, he built it into the Nazi Party. And then by early 1933, he managed to gain election as the vice president. Well, he was chancellor, but it's kind of like vice president because Paul von Hindenburg was the president. And here's what's interesting, Jimmy. At that point, the beginning of 1933, Germany was a democratic republic.
That's
the
right.
Weimar Republic.
Mm-hmm.
And then just a month or so later, their parliament building burned, and Hitler got on the radio and was reaching everybody, and he said, you know, this is the communist terrorists did this, and you got to give me the power to deal with this, and, you know, we've got to protect the country. And so everybody says, yeah, and so they consolidated the office of chancellor with the president, and they named him the Führer, which meant the leader. He became the leader, and everything emanated from him. And within just a few weeks, they'd rushed through the Enabling Act, which created a nationwide security force combining all the police agencies under Fatherland Security, or Homeland Security. And it set up a system of holding camps for political dissidents, which became the concentration camps. And it started along the lines of gun registration and gun control. And, whoa, does that begin to sound familiar to you?
And what he was bringing up there was exactly what he felt was going on with society today and the attempts at... Whoa, I sneezed. That was Jim sneezing through me at this moment, just like that. With the United States today and the attempts at gun control here. All right, let's go to the phones really quick before we hit this break. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, Jimmy, it's Josh.
Hey, Josh, how are you tonight?
Well, I'm doing great. Man, we lost a great. I was born in Fort Worth, and they got a saying around here, about some folks, they're all hat, no cattle. Well, Jim Mars had the hat and had the herds of cattle. He was spectacular. One of the subjects he also spoke about was monatomic gold with Sumerian.
Right.
I remember watching a clip. It's been a good while since I've seen this. But I want to thank you because I got to speak with him twice and communicated via email to him about the Kennedy photos that I have.
Right.
And he pointed out to me about the Secret Service and just in Fort Worth how tight they were on the limo that was there in Fort Worth, and then how they weren't when they were in Dallas. And I went and looked at the clip. In Fort Worth, they were on Kennedy like white on rice.
Right.
And then you see it in Dallas, and it's like, what the hell?
Yeah. Everybody was on break in Dallas, it looked like.
Yeah. They knew they had some ideal. No doubt about it, in my mind. But thank you, and God bless Jim Mars. He's gonna be missed.
Yep.
And thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you so much, Josh.
I'm gonna call you. Okay.
Yeah.
Take care. Love you, brother.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Love you right back, Josh. Thank you for that. And he's absolutely right. That was the influence that Jim had on all of us, and he forced you into just going back and just checking the facts and looking at the video, look at the photographs, and just start to question everything. And that's exactly what Mars did. You don't have to agree. You don't. Somebody just posted, your mind is like a parachute. It works best when it's open. Jim Mars quote. That's exactly right, and that's what he made us do. All right, this is Fade to Black. It's Fader Night. Phone lines are open, 323-825-5045, 323-275-9695. I'll be right back.
Hey, what up, y'all? It's your girl Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
So you went to dinner last night, you had your favorite pasta. Ugh. Or maybe you had a heavy, spicy meal and it left you. Ugh. GetTheT.com. Maybe you mowed down a huge steak and your plumbing is all plugged. Ugh. GetTheT.com. Our super strength tea will take care of your occasional. Ugh. It's all organic and non-GMO. Get rid of ugh. We have so many great supplements, but our super tea is number one. GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of fade to black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Tepe.
I'm Matt Ray with America's First News. We all know if you're planning a trip, you should shop and compare, right? But why endlessly search the web when you don't have to? Flight Services helps you find the lowest possible airfare. Talk directly to a travel pro right now for the best deals available. Their travel pros have additional discounts not found on websites, and Flight Services provides 24-hour customer service. Call toll-free 844-845-9944. That's 844-845-9944.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring two Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The two full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129 and use the promo code JCRTWS and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tepe.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black, our 700th show. And tonight we're spending it with a tribute to Jim Mars. Passed away 2 days ago at his home in Fort Worth, Texas. And the details of that, let's just say, he had a heart attack that night. And that's what took him. Okay, and as time goes on, I'll speak a little bit more about that. But for now, that's what happened. He had a heart attack 2 nights ago. We found out about it yesterday morning and spoke to his family. There will be a wake and a party next month. And the dates on that, everything, the family now is still making arrangements and doing some things. But as soon as we get that date, we will announce it, and there will be a party done Texas style per Jim's wishes in Texas. Okay, and and I can only imagine how crazy that's going to be. All right, let's go back to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hi, it's Paul from up in Smoky, Southern Oregon.
Hi, Paul from Smoky, Southern Oregon. How are you?
Hey, I am wonderful. I'm devastated by the loss of Jim Mars. Richard Allen Miller's a good friend of mine, and he'd always promised to introduce me to him. We never got around to it. Jim Mars is one of the chief sources of inspiration I have for research and for writing, and maybe one day I'll do something worth being on your show for. My favorite comment that he had was probably the post-turtle comment that he made about W. I thought that was just hilarious. The story goes, you're driving along and you see a turtle on top of a post, and you know he couldn't get there by himself, referring to that particular presidency. So I always thought that was pretty hilarious. He had a great sense of humor. Probably the most interesting stuff that I think that he was poking around with was the Aurora incident.
Yep.
And working on that. But he had such a wide range of topics. In my own little eulogy on Facebook, I said, Jim, make sure you don't ask St. Peter too many follow-up questions before you get inside the pearly gates.
Yeah, that's what he's doing right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
He's getting to the bottom of that.
So kudos to him and condolences to the family. He had a rich, long life, and if it was a heart attack, it was probably pretty sudden, and I don't know that there's much better way to go than that. In the end.
Yeah, and well said, Paul, and I thank you for that. The thing is, we felt like it came, so sudden, and that it was too soon. Well, let's not forget. I mean, not only his books and his contribution, but he lived to 73, right? He lived to 73, and he did it his way. And that, you cannot ask for any more than that. I know that he was happy and satisfied. He still wanted to do some more things for sure. But he got that last book out, Illuminati, which was really well done. I have it here. You know what? And I thought about this. Check this out, Paul. Jim, one day, this is how cool he is. We went, Rita and I and another friend of ours went to his room, per his invitation. We went, and he sat for about an hour and signed a pile of books, everything that he has done, and signed 2 or 3 copies of each one. And we have them here. We've given a few away. But and now we have them, and I'm looking, and I cannot wait to give these away to the Fadernauts. They were always special, but now they're even more special. But that's how cool he was, and he was so appreciative of the Fadernauts and Fade to Black. And he wanted to make sure that we had these books, and we have everything that he's ever done, and it's all signed here in triplicate. And we're going to start giving those away. How cool is that, right?
I think that is just absolutely fantastic. I wish he had gotten up to the ranch outside of Kennewick, up on the Columbia where you guys were at, to experience that. The man had an incredibly incisive mind. I'm sure he would have made something very profound out of that. You guys obviously had an incredible experience.
Yeah, there. And we did. And Jim always, and he had said this to me a few times. I might have a clip about this that hopefully I'll play tonight. But he said, I've seen lights in the sky. And I don't put too much into the lights in the sky thing. And I've seen strange stuff too. He was into, he wanted his sightings to be a silver flying saucer with a glass dome on the top and a green alien giving a peace sign. That to him was, and he had said that to me, that is a UFO sighting, right? Lights in the sky, it's great. But give me that silver disc with the glass dome on the top and a couple of green ETs on the inside. That was Jim Mars, and you know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely.
That was his take.
I was largely. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That was his take. Lights in the sky are cool. Give me the take me to your leader, silver flying saucer. So
the true the close encounter of the third kind.
That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you so
I
much.
was a skeptic. Thank you.
Yeah.
And again, you guys are doing wonderful things for the show. Regular listener, first-time caller. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Absolutely, Paul. Thank you so much. Again, from the smoky south of Oregon. Now, and thank you for that. Yeah, absolutely. The when we talk about flying saucers, right, and the Third Reich, one of the most common asked questions on this show constantly was Operation Highjump. Operation Highjump, what's up with that? We want to know, Admiral Byrd, Operation Highjump. And so one night I hit Jim Mars with that very question, and this was his answer. Was a Nazi base that they encountered? Was
Yes,
that?
I think so. And I think they encountered the Habanus, the flying saucers, the flying disc, maybe even the Feuerball, the little glowing ball things and stuff. And yet, now let me quickly point out here and add this caveat. I'm not trying to say that every flying saucer during World War II was a Nazi design. In fact, the Nazi pilots, as well as Japanese pilots, all reported seeing these discs flying around in these little golden balls that would follow and chase and cavort around their aircraft. So it was not, at the time, it was kind of kept secret because we thought it was a secret Nazi weapon. The Nazis thought it was one of our secret weapons. The Japanese thought it was somebody's secret weapons, and so nobody was talking about it. But after the war, when you put all this together, you realize that, yes, the Nazis had some very futuristic stuff that they were testing and that they were beginning to bring into operation. But there was also a foreign alien aspect, okay? Something was going on there.
Jim Mars. The view from Mars. I almost get choked up listening to him speak right now. He's not going to be on this show ever again. But somebody had posted, and actually am considering this. Somebody had posted, you know what? We should just do a full week of the best of Jim Mars. And man, do we have that. We could do a week or two of the best of Jim Mars. And just maybe we should. Let's go back to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Yeah, it's Bill over in Missouri.
Hey, Bill.
Hey, wasn't Jim, I know Jim was a very close friend of yours.
Yes.
So wasn't Jim also a Fadernaut with us?
I would say that he called himself a Fadernaut. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. What was your favorite?
I'm just kind of upset by his loss, by losing him too, because he was an exceptional person, man.
He was.
Anyway,
he was the complete package.
I knew you guys were close. You attended conventions together and done things like that, And,
well, he allowed us. Let's be very clear. He allowed us, and he allowed me into his world, and that is. That was the kind of person that he was.
That's a privilege.
I remember the first contact in the desert, and we were broadcasting outside, and he came down the hill, and the Fadernauts were there. There was probably 30 or 40 or 30 out there, and here comes Jim. And he jumps on the air. I think he was with Linda Moulton Howe, and they closed the show. But then John Anthony West showed up. I can't remember, but anyway, the point is, we wrapped the show and we shut down, and Jim stuck around with John Anthony West and Linda Moulton Howe with the Fadernauts, took pictures, and talked to everybody there for like the next hour and a half. And he rode that out, and he was just so happy to hang out with the Fadernauts, man. And it was a really cool thing. Bill, this is no joke.
Yeah.
I stood back off to the side, and I just watched this play out. I watched it happen, and it was just so cool. to see him hang out with the Fadernauts, and I didn't have to talk.
Wasn't that also the same summer that the power went off and there was no AC? I mean,
that's right.
It was hotter than the devil out there, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. But at that point, it was probably 11 o'clock at night. And that's, again, back to my point. Here it is, 11 o'clock at night. He could be off doing his own thing, but no, he was there with Linda and with John Anthony West, and we took a ton of pictures. There's got to be a million pictures out there of that. I do have some somewhere. I'll post them, but I didn't think about it until you brought it up here. But and anyway, what I wanted to say was I was able to just sit back and watch him hang out with everybody, and I just watched it, and it just it was just such a cool moment.
It was like watching somebody. He's just a normal human being like the rest of us, and just being a person, just being people with like the rest of us.
He was exactly that. No, you're 100% correct. He was just a dude, and just a dude that happened to write.
A great dude.
Yeah,
he was a great dude, man.
Yep, and happened to write some of the great books and influenced everybody. And we miss him. We miss him already. And so I've got a great clip here, Bill. Listen to this, and thank you for the phone call.
Let me hang up, and I'm gonna go back to online thing listening. Okay,
you got it. Thank you so much, Bill. This next clip, when I was talking about the Fourth Reich earlier, that's a difficult subject to talk about, to write about, to suggest about. That is a zone that most people don't want to go into. Well, I hit Jim with the question about the Fourth Reich. Is the Fourth Reich us? And here's his answer. When you were talking about the rise of the Fourth Reich, is that
that's us?
Yeah. You think the rise of the Fourth Reich is the United States, and is it directly?
Well, this like with most politicians, you can't trust anything they say. You have to just watch what they do, and same thing with countries. Now, right now, they're trying to drum us up into a war with Russia and saying Russia's trying to invade the Ukraine. What are they talking about? The Ukraine's been part of Russia, all the way back into the Tsarist days. That would be like saying that somebody got hold of the state government in Austin, declared Texas a republic, and when the United States tried to say you can't do that, then is the United States invading Texas? It's all screwy. So you have to look at countries, but not based on what the political rhetoric is, but based on the events, on circumstances, which you can't change. What I'm getting at is that we went through the Cold War, and Russia troops occupied Eastern Europe, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia. There they are. The communist, the Iron Curtain. Okay, and then when communism collapsed under its own weight and lack of inertia, because social programs can never last indefinitely. The Russians said, okay, look, you beat us fair and square. We're out of money, so we're going to stop this Cold War. Now we're going to just withdraw our troops from Eastern Europe if you, meaning us, the United States and England, if you and NATO promise you will not expand NATO. And we agreed to it, okay? So what did they do? Did we push the Russian troops out of Eastern Europe? No. They just got up and went home. All right? And what did we do? We started pushing and bringing those nations into NATO and putting missiles in those countries. No wonder the Russians are upset. Now, who's the bad guy?
Who is the bad guy now? Jim Mars. And that's how you deal with that subject. And you think about the ongoing ideology, right? Because it was so ingrained into not only so many countries, but it went into Africa and it went across Europe. Did it ever go away? That's the question, right? Well, the rise of the Fourth Reich deals with that subject. Peter Levenda handled it really well, too. Let's go back to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hello, Mr. Jimmy Church.
Hey, Steve. How are you, my friend?
I'm enjoying a nice warm evening in the mountains, Jimmy.
Yes, you are, man. 700th show. Thank you for stopping by. Little Steve Bunko drive-by. But you're here, and it's our little celebration of Jim Mars, man. What say you about Mr. Mars?
A true pioneer in a subject that that's very difficult and hard on you personally to achieve any kind of personal recognition, and just a true loss to the community. You know. But he's in a better place, and I know that he's in a better place.
Right.
And I feel actually a little envious
that he's there. Yeah.
That he's there. You know, the only thing that I regret for him, I guess, is that he's not going to be able to truly enjoy the fruits of his labor for so many years. But just a great all-around individual, Jimmy. That's basically all you can say about him. He was just first class.
Yeah, first class.
First class.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And the excitement every time that we announced that he was going to be on the show, right? And we get, we have lots of, all the guests are great, but the anticipation of him being on each show was just so much fun to go through, to watch everybody go, all right, and that is because he was everybody's friend. You felt like you were just sitting down with a really cool uncle, a really cool friend, somebody that you knew was going to give it to you straight and give you advice, and you were going to listen, and at the end of the conversation, you were going to be a better person. Everybody expected that and knew that was coming from Jim Mars, and how cool is that? And I really feel that he understood that. I do. I really feel like he knows that he knew that he had that connection with everybody, and he was able to speak on in a way, in a language, in a vocabulary that everybody was going to get, and it felt honest and it felt pure, and the audience always got that out of Jim. Don't you think that's the way it was?
Well, Jim, I think he always knew the gravity of what he spoke, and he understood that his words carried some weight, and with that comes responsibilities, Jimmy, and he understood those responsibilities and he took them very seriously, and that's why I say that he was first class. At the end of the day, he didn't pull no punches, he didn't pull no strings. He was straight up. You got exactly what you asked for with Jim. There was no a man, but something different from an on-stage kind of persona, or someone that just got up and spoke, and had a different personality when he spoke to when you spoke to him in face to face. He was the same man all the time, and it's just a true loss, Jimmy. At the end of the day, it's just a true loss, but we gotta pull our bootstraps up and just go back at it and just keep on and take credit to the work that he's done for the community and for the world, Jimmy, for the world. Everyone is going to benefit from the hard work and just everything that he has done. Everyone's going to benefit, and I just hate that he's not going to be around to hopefully see some kind of true disclosure.
Yeah, he fought for that. He fought for that on every level, not only with the UFO side of things, but certainly John F. Kennedy and the realities of that. He pushed so hard and pushed so many buttons. And you're absolutely right. Let me ask you this, because you've listened to so much of Fade to Black and Jim Mars. Did you have a Jim Mars moment looking back that springs to mind that was your favorite moment?
I can't really think of one in particular, Jimmy, because he was so well rounded. You know, you always got the best of Jim Mars. You know, he never had an off night.
Yeah.
You know, and he, at the end of the day, he was just, you know, he's a true truth seeker and knowledge seeker, and in that, you know, that was Jim Mars. That was Jim Mars.
Yeah, I remember. I talked to him the day after the election, right when Trump got elected, and him and I talked for about 2 or 3 hours that day. And he was, now I'm not going to, it was a very personal and private conversation, and he's no longer with us, so therefore that's going to stay where it stays. But I will say this. He was so angry at the media. He was so angry at the Democrats. He was so angry at the Republicans. He was so angry at Hillary. He was so angry at Trump. He was so angry at the polling. He was so angry at, you know, it was the election happened and it came and went. But the way that it ultimately played out and the way that it went down, he was so upset at society, at this country, at everything, you know, and the prospects for the future because of the way that it ended up ultimately going down. Not that Trump won. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about the way that everything was dealt with, the way that Washington dealt with it, the way that the media and everything else, and the way that it was presented to us. He just felt like, well, I'm just going to say he was just mad. Man. And so we had him on the show.
That's a lot of people.
Yes.
We did. At the end of the day, when you stop, if you were to stop right now, okay, and just if you happen to record the last 48 hours of the election, and go back to that day and just watch the last 48 hours of the election play out on, on the mainstream media, in the newspapers, in the tabloids. We were just, I'm embarrassed. I'm just really have to say that I'm embarrassed to say I'm an American.
Yeah, I know.
At that point,
and
there was just a lot of junk that went down that was just straight up wrong.
Yeah, that's the point that I'm trying to drive home here with him. He was not happy, man. He was not happy. And there you go. Hey, Steve, thank you so much for calling in on this very special night, my friend. Means a lot to me. Thank you so much. Means a lot to me.
As always.
You're welcome. How's that? That's what I'm talking about. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks for the time, brother.
You got it. Steve Bunker. 700th show. The Life and Times of Jim Mars. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. We got a couple of more clips and more of your phone calls are next. Stay with us.
Here, and you are listening to my boy Jimmy Church on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
So you went to dinner last night, you had your favorite pasta. Ugh. Or maybe you had a heavy, spicy meal and it left you. Ugh. Get the tea.com. Maybe you mowed down a huge steak and your plumbing is all plugged. Ugh. Get the tea.com. Our super strength tea will take care of your occasional. Ugh. It's all organic and non-GMO. Get rid of We have so many great supplements, but our Super Tea is number one. GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of fade to black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
I'm Matt Ray with America's First News. We all know if you're planning a trip, you should shop and compare, right? But why endlessly search the web when you don't have to? Flight Services helps you find the lowest possible airfare. Talk directly to a travel pro right now for the best deals available. Their travel pros have additional discounts not found on websites, and Flight Services provides 24-hour customer service. Call toll-free 844-845-9944. That's 844-845-9944.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring two Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The two full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Teppy.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRAradio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is our 700th broadcast, and we're spending this evening the life and times of Jim Mars on Fade to Black. Fade to Mars. The view from Mars. All right, before I get back to these last few clips that I've got here for everybody, let's go back to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling? You're live.
Hey, Jimmy, this is Mike. How you doing?
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Good. Ronnie and I are sitting here listening to your show, enjoying your 700th show.
Yeah, right on, man. It's good to hear your voice. Say hi to Ronnie for me.
Right here, say hi.
I'm right here. Hello.
Hey, Ronnie, how are you? All right.
I'm doing great.
So here we are, 700 shows, and we're doing it with our friend Jim Mars that left this planet to go figure out the rest of the stuff that he needed to go and figure out. Do you have a favorite Jim Mars moment? What did he mean to you guys? And did you ever have a chance to hang out with him?
You know what? I hung out with him at a speaker's party one time, and I just sat and really enjoyed listening to him play his guitar.
Oh, yeah, right on. And that's really cool, actually. How about you, Mike? Did you ever get a chance to hang out with him?
Yeah, I saw him at Contact in the Desert twice and hung out in the big room there with him and talked a couple of times. This is the cool thing. It was from my own hometown, from Fort Worth, Texas, where I was born.
Right.
And yeah, he just, you know what is kind of cool is that he was kind of the first guy that got the Antarctic stuff going, and now it's like the alien of the de jure with everybody else. Everybody's gotten on board, but he was out the first guy actually got on that with the Vril and the Nazis going down there.
Yeah,
you're pretty cool listening to him.
Yeah, you're right about that. He not only influenced this audience, but he influenced other researchers out there too as well. And it happened time and time again. You're absolutely right about that. And just thank you for pointing that out. Yeah. We have all these moments with Jim. Not only on this broadcast, but at conferences and the books, and we just kind of lose sight of. And I'm trying to drive this home. His influence was broad. His influence was just there. It was something that you could reach out and touch, and that's a hard thing to achieve. And most of the time, when it does happen, it's not your intention. It's because you're writing and speaking from the heart, and it turns out to resonate with so many people. But that's exactly what he did, and thank you for pointing that out.
You sure did. Yeah, just a little-known Fader fact. On your 500th anniversary last year was my birthday, and here it is today, my birthday, and it's your 700th show. So congratulations.
Thank you so much, Mike. And I understand you're going to be cooking for us, so thank you so much.
We will be. Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, you have a great night, Jimmy.
See you, Mike. See you, Ronnie. All right. Let's stay on the phones. We may end up going into overtime tonight because I got a couple of really cool clips I got to get out of the way. But it's Fader Nights. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, Jimmy?
Yes.
Hey, it's Mike Oming.
Oh, Michael Oming. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. A little sad. Just want to call and tell you you're doing a great job tonight celebrating Jim's life. And for a little I'd known of him, I got to meet him that same year in Contact with Desert, that first year, where actually I walked by you not knowing who you were at that point, but I remembered, there's somebody doing a radio show here. That's really cool.
That's funny.
Yeah, that was really cool. And then that was just a great show. And I also met Mike Barra there for the first time. He was really cool, and got to meet Jim at the show, and he was just really open to me, just walking up to him and talking to him. And, he's just this really unpretentious, really open, kind guy. And that's rare in this world in general. And then in this field, it's so refreshing to find somebody who was truly open-minded. With all of his investigations that he's done over the years, I never got a sense of any kind of agenda, any kind of point that he was trying to force into any of the stories that he reported on,
right,
or his findings.
Right.
He was just a true journalist, and we're really lucky to have him.
Now, let me ask you this. You listen to this show and Coast to Coast, and you draw and you write and your comics, right? There must have been a Jim Mars influence more than once in one of your publications, right?
Definitely. Well, he wrote everything from really straightforward, quote unquote conspiracy stuff like the JFK stuff, all the way to ancient aliens, right?
Yeah.
So he really covered the gamut. And definitely, one of the reasons why I love the sort of fringe community stuff isn't just because I believe in a lot of it, but it's also because there are great influential stories that, whether I believe in or not, they're full of sort of these creative sparks.
Right.
So I've listened to a lot of Jim, and I've worked a lot of his investigations into some of the comics that I've written and drawn. I was trying to dig it up, but I think I actually either drew him in an issue of something or I named a character after him. I'll have to look a little deeper and find that. But,
I think either I've seen it or you told me about this before. I think that we've
I
talked
think
about
it was on the page where I put George Norrie in something.
Right.
But it's just because you love guys like that. These investigators who they rise above everybody else. I mean, there's like him and like a handful of other guys that are just kind of you can't poke holes into what they're investigating or what they're saying because they do it with such dignity and openness. Like if they don't know something, they'll say, "I don't know."
Right.
Like how many times you've heard Jim go, like, "I don't know what this means."
Right.
And it was so great. And you had an earlier caller who mentioned the turtle on a post thing that he would come up with.
Yes.
Which I think was a sort of beautiful analogy for everything that Jim did. It wasn't just about the George Bush thing, but you think of that as an analogy or a metaphor for what goes on in the conspiracy cultures. Like these weird things happen. They don't happen in a vacuum.
Right.
They happen because people are involved. Somebody has an agenda. Somebody has a point to prove. Or a bizarre coincidence that brings things together in this no longer coincidence afterwards. So I think that turtle on the post thing was a great metaphor for everything that Jim was looking into.
Yeah, and you're right about that. And his influence, and what's really cool that you called in, I keep driving this Oliver Stone narrative, right? That influence, went around the world, but here it is right now with you and with what you have done. And the influence is there. And because of that, he's in the middle, but his influence goes out into other parts of society that you would never think about, but his influence is there. And I thank you for that. And I thank you for all of your support. And I do see a really cool Jimmy and Jim illustration that will be showing up in my mailbox in the very near future.
Absolutely. I could totally do that.
Michael Oeming, thank you so much, my friend, for calling in on this very special night. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having a great show, man.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Michael Oeming, one of the great comic book illustrators in the world, right there. And thank you for that, Michael. I do have something I want to play here. Speaking of callers, which Michael just brought up, we had a caller, and this is Mike from Indiana, that called in one night and wanted to speak to Jim and ask him a question. And this is Jim's answer. Here it is.
Okay, Michael wants to know, of all the secret societies, which was the most sinister. And, boy, it's kind of a tough one because some of them, it'd be a close contest for some of them, but I guess I'd have to say that the way that the old Bavarian Illuminati spread, in fact, I've seen letters from George Washington who said he had no doubts that the doctrines of the Illuminati had not spread to the United States, and they're still spreading because some of the tenets that the Illuminati was trying to push, and they were very highly socialistic. They wanted public control of everything, land, property, food, distribution, manufacturing, everything. And they wanted to get control over the education system so they could educate the kids and bring them up to be good little socialists and their little Illuminati. And they only wanted that their Illuminati members to run everything. And they wanted... they had like a platform of almost 25 items, and interestingly enough, it's almost word for word the same platform that the Communist Party advanced back in the 30s. And then, interestingly enough, that was almost word for word for the same party that the National Socialists, or the Nazis, were pushing in Nazi Germany. So I would have to say the Illuminati, now whether they still exist as an organization is pretty doubtful. In fact, I would kind of think not. But the tenets and the doctrines and the theology are still there and still being pushed by the New World Order. And as far as today, if when you're talking, you say, well, they are trying to do this and they are doing that and they're behind the chemtrails and they have control of the media, and everybody goes, well, who's they? Well, simply get on and Google the Bilderberg Conference Okay, the Bilderbergs are so secretive that they don't even have an official name. They're called the Bilderbergs because they were first identified meeting in 1954 at the Bilderberg Hotel in Holland. So they're called the Bilderbergs. So just Google Bilderbergs. And now they're kind of out of the closet. Now it's been secret for years. In fact, the media was under orders to act like it didn't even exist. But in the last couple of 3 or 4 years, when they have their yearly meetings, the media has begun to take notice and begin to cover it somewhat. And this year, back in June, when they had their meeting, they actually published a membership list or an attendee list. But keep in mind that everybody who attended is not necessarily on that list. People on that list are only the people who agreed to have their names put out. And yet, if you go over it, you'll find that they represent the leading wealth and industrialists and capitalists from all of the major countries.
What he ended up saying there, and this particular audio clip got interrupted right after that. But what he wanted to go on and say was that the media was closed off from the Bilderbergs and are not allowed to report on it. And why is it that we accept that? Right, that it is so secretive that we can't go and report on it. Isn't that part of our very own checks and balances today with the freedom of the press? But yet, this is closed off to us. Some of the most influential, not only industrialists, but the software sector and oil and military, the industrial part that are allowed, and world leaders that are allowed to attend this meeting and dictate the world agenda, but yet we are not allowed to participate in it, where decisions are not only being made, but possibly even future leaders. It was one of the more extraordinary responses from Jim Marrs. Now, I do have this. This next clip is, and I want to share this with you, this last clip that we're going to play tonight is the last time that Jim Marrs was on Fade to Black from earlier this year. It's from a few months ago. And the point is on this clip is that this was the last time he was introduced on Fade to Black. And I want you to enjoy this moment. It's very, very cool. But here we go.
Now, what I normally do with Jim when he's on the show is I read this bio that is so long, takes me out of breath, and by the time I get to the end of it, it takes me a few minutes to recover. So let me say this. He's not only one of my favorite guests, he's one of the smartest guys that I know. He's been at this for a long time. He's been at this for you. He's been rolling that rock uphill. He is, not only has he had experience in reporting on covert things in the military, that's what he did, but he's been a reporter turned researcher and author. And his books are some of the best. I have them all. And his newest book is called The Illuminati. When Jim first told me about this, I said to myself, and I said this to Jim, and he's going to laugh about this. I said, there's nobody better than you to write this book now. And tonight, that's what we're going to talk about. And I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, our good friend, the one and only from Texas, Jim Marrs. Jim, good evening.
Well, howdy, Jimmy, as always.
You know,
here's the thing. Researcher, rolling hot rocks up here. Let me tell you something. When I was in the university, I signed up to be a journalist.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Now, here's the problem. There are no more journals. so I have to write books. That's the only way I can get the word out.
You know, let me jump in and ask you this question, because you just brought up the word journalist. The amount of interviews that I have done over the years, the one thing that I have found out from journalists and guys that run the beat, right, and trying to change the world, that a lot of them were saying, and I want to know if you experienced this, a lot of them have told me that their news director and their editors were telling them what to write. And they had an agenda there for them. They wanted to go out and change the world, and they were saying, no, we're not. You're going to write about this. And if you don't like it, you're not going to have a career, right?
Hit the street.
Hit the street. Did you experience that yourself?
Absolutely, and that's what's wrong with journalism. Let me tell you something. Back in the day, you know, when I was in Journalism 101, we actually were taught to look beyond the corporate handouts and the political press releases and try to find out what's really going on and tell that to the people. That's what journalism was all about. That's what I was taught, and like a fool, I bought into it. I thought that's what I was supposed to be doing. And then when I get out in the real world of journalism, newspapers and radio and TV, you got all these editors and you got all these supervisors and all these assignments editors, and they're all going, no, forget that. Look, just rewrite this and do this and do that, and let's tone this down, and oh my God, you write something here about Monsanto, you can't do that. Come on, they're a big advertiser, leave them alone.
Right.
Blah, 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 you know, and it's just not there. There's no journals anymore. There's nobody out there except for a handful of independents. Okay, Lou Radowski comes to mind, who's by God, he's going to tell you the truth no matter what.
Right.
You know, but come on. And Jimmy Church, of course, who gets good guests on there. But, you know, in fact, it's really funny because for so many years they talked about the alternative media, you know.
Right.
Well, let me tell you something, Jimmy. The alternative media is now the mainstream media.
I know.
And the so-called lamestream media, CNN, BBC, Washington Post, New York Times, they're just propaganda rags. They really are. And the people that work for them will admit that. You know, I mean, they won't admit, they wouldn't come on Jimmy Church's show and admit that, but they will admit it. Years ago, I used to be president of the press club in Fort Worth, and we'd sit around late at night in our cups, you know, and all these reporters, they'd just sit there and go, we're just prostitutes. And they go, yeah, that's it.
You know, I remember the first time that I said this publicly about API, UP, and the ownership of everything, where we used to have a few different API, you know, we had a few different wire services.
Oh, yeah, had a few different voices.
Had a few different voices, and then the Rothschild family came in, bought Reuters, and consolidated API. Now there is truly just one source of information that goes out across the wires that is owned by the Rothschilds and a conglomerate of their corporations. And so everything that trickles down across the country and around the world as it comes out of Washington or London or Moscow trickles through all of this, and everybody just gets the same information that is fed from one source and that agenda. And when I said that, well...
And Jimmy, it's even worse than that. Let me tell you something. Associated Press, most of these smaller newspapers, most of the daily newspapers in this country subscribe to the Associated Press, right? So they got the wire machines and the teletype machines, and here it comes, okay, and it feeds them to them. What nobody quite understands is that in AP headquarters in New York City, there's the foreign desk, okay? Now, on this foreign desk, they have probably 3 shifts. So actually, we're talking probably like 3 people, okay? But at any one time, there's one person on the foreign desk. And this one person is the guy who decides of all the news and information coming from around the world, what he's going to put on the AP wire. Now, that is incredibly concentrated, control over the news.
Talk about power, right? Oof,
yes.
Man. And dictating an agenda and being able to control emotions and the public, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what a megalomaniac, right? What a position.
Well, okay, the good news is, look at this past so-called election. All the pundits, all of the media people, all the talking heads, all of them, they all say, oh, man, hey, you shouldn't even go vote. Hillary's got it. Of course, that's it. We got it. We got all the polls. We got this. We got that. And they were all wrong.
Yeah, I think that, which goes back to what you were saying earlier when we talk about the independent, the rogue guys, the guys that were so far out there that we were all just nuts, right? And right. as it rings out, we wring that dirty dish rag, right? And we find out that the ones that were the closest to the truth were the ones that weren't being influenced, and it turns out to be us. And that's right. That's what's
exactly
crazy.
Right. I was on a European station just like maybe a week or a few days before the election, and this guy that was the host, he's going, he says, well, Hillary's got it, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going, contraire. Hang on just a minute. I said, I don't think you're taking into account the mass of people out there. I said, there's some real dissatisfaction going on here, And later on, after the election, I was on this guy's show again. He was going, holy cow, man, you were right.
Well, I want to stay on the same thing, but get off of it just a little bit, because today Congress took our internet privacy rights away from us that were underneath. Now, look, and I tried to make this very clear to everybody, although this seems like it was done on party lines, it's a Democratic thing, it's a Republican thing. No, it's a privacy issue thing. But today,
it's a New World Order thing. Well, the New World Order crosses the aisle.
Yes, and see, this is, yes. Oh, man. Truer words have never been spoken, my friend. But it's this. Obama had signed a presidential order that forced the FCC's regulations to overlap into Google and the telecommunications industry, that they couldn't sell our private information, that we had an opt-out clause and there had to be disclosure and so forth. Well, today, Congress repealed that. And that was done again. It was done on party lines, and it was largely it was party lines. Republicans control the Congress, and it passed and went through. But I don't want to make this a party thing. I want everybody to understand here that it was a money thing, and it was the lobby coming out of Silicon Valley for Google and for Facebook, and the money that was behind them to sell this through, and the only way to do that was a Republican-controlled Congress. If it was a Democratic-controlled Congress, I don't care about the ACLU, I don't care about any of that. That money would have influenced the Democratic side too. So do not say that this is a party line thing. They went through. Who's controlling.
Money talks.
Money talks. And now, how do you feel about that? Where anybody now, as of today, Trump still has to sign it, but they expect that he will. But that anybody can sell our private information now. That's it. They can sell. Yeah. They can just sell it, and it's 100%.
But Jimmy, this isn't anything new anyway.
It's not.
Okay, now they can sell it. Now there's going to be some money changing hands in the not too distant past. All they got to do is know somebody with the NSA, and they go in there and say, "We think this might border on national security. Give us all this guy's information." And they would.
Right. And
there is no privacy. There's no privacy anymore.
There you go. And that's where Jim Mars left it. There is no privacy anymore. That's it. That's our 700th show. I want to thank everybody that called in tonight. This was our dedication to Jim Mars, who passed away two days ago. Fade to black. And we'll see everybody on Monday. Rest in peace, Jim Mars. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark T. Kovar, LJ3, Renee Jonas. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster, Drew, The Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. Thank you to John Rappoport and everybody that called in tonight. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2017 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. I want everybody to have a great, safe, and fun weekend. We'll see you right here on Monday. Go back, Lee Tappy.